Hi, guys. Before I start the official podcast of today, which I'm quite excited to talk about, before that, I wanted to go on a little tangent. So, recently, I've been taking a lot of time to draw out the background for each of these podcasts. Well, I say each, the one that will go on all of them all together, always. But, while I was doing that yesterday, I was sitting at my desk, and I'm working on it, and all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see movement. And on top of that, one of my papers kind of like rustles. Now, we're out kind of in the country, not really crazy country, but I can hear cows out my window every once in a while. And I have three cats. And so I'm sitting here and I kind of look over and I look at it, and I have my spoiler box, which I'll eventually tell you all what that is, but for now it can be spoilers free. I have my spoiler box and then my writing box and a few papers stacked on top of that for school. And I kind of look over at it and I don't see anything, and I kind of stare at it for a second, and I'm thinking, oh, maybe the fan rustled it or whatever, because, well, it's either that or the ghost Bob that haunts the house. It's no in between. And so I go back into writing, and I see movement out of the corner of my eye, and I'm not kidding you. A mouse runs over across my desk. And I'll be honest, I'm not as afraid of mice as I used to be, because my freaking cats bring them in, play with them, and then leave them for me to deal with, which, it's always fun. And so I'm a little scared, and I'm drawing, so I have my drawing tablet out, and so I stand up, and my desk is under my loft, and so I already don't have a lot of space to move around, and I'm kind of standing here, and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, okay, and so I run into my closet, and I grab bags, because no way I'm trying to pick that up with my bare hands, and I'm just trying to catch it. Honestly, I'm just trying to catch it. And so I'm going around, and you can imagine, because there's stuff all over my desk. It's kind of controlled chaos. It's not completely messy, but it's not completely clean either. And so I'm kind of moving stuff around, and I go for it, and my desk is it's this big, old, antique rolling desk. It's a nice desk, but it has this cubby for papers. It's like a small little, for a mouse, it's a crawl space for papers, and it goes in there, and I do not want to admit the amount of time I had to spend detour away from drawing where I had to try to get the mouse out of the freaking crawl space, and oh my gosh, it took so long. I tried so many different things. I felt like, if any of you have seen the Sand-A-Lot, then you'll know how they made a bunch of obscure and insane ways to get the ball back to avoid the dog. That's how I felt. I felt like I had a million insane ways to try and get the mouse out. And what's funny is, on my desk, because I love candles, so I have 2 candles, and so I have this torch because I'm scared of matches and fire and everything like that, which is strange because I love candles. But so I have this torch, it's like a camping torch, so it's a little long, and I would have set it on fire. It was a thought. It literally did go through my head. But what stopped me? The fact that my desk is made out of wood. And it was in the very back corner of this paper crevice. And I didn't want to accidentally set my desk on fire. But anyways, I eventually got it out, and it ended up dying. I didn't even want to kill it, which is probably the most annoying part, is it really wasn't supposed to die. But, oh, it's fine. It's whatever. Just a small tangent. I wanted to be known what I had to go through yesterday while I was trying to draw. But on to the main topic of today. So, it's good to be known that my favorite topic in school is history. I love history. I love everything about history. But for my science class, I'm in environmental science, or I was last year in environmental science, and we did a whole lot of researching and information on biodomes, which, if you don't know, there actually is one. It's called Biodome 2. It's in Arizona, and for all of you who are asking, oh, well, Kitsunosaki, why is it called Biodome 2? Well, because they say Biodome 1 is Earth, and the whole idea is bio means life. It's a life dome, and so it was basically for if we had to go to Mars, or it was like a theoretical creation so that people could live on Mars. And so it was like this huge, and like I said, there's one in Arizona. It's great to look up. It's in the Tucson area, I think, or I don't remember if it's before or after Phoenix, but somewhere in there. I don't know. I haven't been there yet, but I'm going to. They have tours for $20 a person. You can tour through it. It's huge. They call it the biggest science project. And in the 1980s, they did an experiment where they sent, I think it was 8 scientists, maybe it was 7, into this biodome they had created where it had a whole bunch of different life and plants and animals. And the whole idea was to see if, theoretically, if a human could survive where a thing had to make its own air. And so we did a whole lot of research on this. And then we had to create our own biodome. And there was a running joke in that class that I did all of the work possible while most of everyone else didn't, which really still stands true. So we watched this whole video where it was like a walkthrough, a documentary style walkthrough of the biodome in Arizona, Biodome 2, and all the things it has and what it needs. And so we had to draw out blueprints for what our biodome would look like. And so we had a street view, so like what it would look like if you were just staring at it, third person, I think. And then we had a top-down view, and you could go on from there. And so I did way too much work. I'll put up pictures of what it looks like, because I honestly had so much fun, because you had to figure out like how the waste was getting what would you recycle and how would you use what. And I'll admit, I had so much fun. And again, I don't really care for science. I hated doing science projects because I'm a procrastinator that cares, and so I would just get so anxious over a deadline and wouldn't do anything, and it would loom forward slightly, and oh my gosh, those were always awful. But this was so much fun, and I had different rooms because you had to create quarters for 20 people of your choice. We got to choose who, and then we had to basically keep these people alive. And so I had if I look at my diagram, I had a big room that was going to be the natural ecosystem room, and the whole idea was that this place was kind of the beating heart of the whole system, because you have your like aesthetic looks of it where it's like, okay, well, these are where the people are, these are where the animals are, and this is where your main energy supply is. But I took that to a whole new level. And because there's a lot you got to think about, because like if you think about it, a city is an ecosystem. And well, what would you need in the city? Well, you learn in history that in the Industrial Revolution, a whole lot of cities were reconfigured because it was happening at like en masse so quickly. People were migrating into like big cities and out of small farm town areas because of the different huge factories that were being created, because steel had been made cheaper and all of that and everything connected to that. Well, they learned that you had to have sanitation, you had to have a sewer place, and because it was like that was the main bit, because if you didn't have that, then disease was happening, and disease would kill people, and then that would lower your factory like raisings, because if the people died, then no one can put the machines together to make the products to keep the whole system running. And so it's like a whole circle. And so like that, with my biodome, I had this main area where it was it had the water supply, and it was where it was almost like, think of a Hunger Games dome, like first book Hunger Games, where it's like a huge forest and it's got like its own ecosystems, but think less technological and think more real. Like that's what it was. It was this huge earth dome is what I called it, and it was the main filter for oxygen and water. And on my diagram you can see the pipes that go every which way from that specific, and then on the back I had a secondary diagram, and that was for what was under in the like quote unquote basement of my biodome. And that was where it's called not an oxygen pump. in the documentary we watched about the Biodome 2 in Arizona, they called it the lungs of the whole biodome because, because of the sun rays, it would get hot in there. And because, oxygen can't get out and heat makes it expand, then there needed to be a way to control the pressure inside so that, it wouldn't explode. And so they came up with this really, really cool design that basically it was like this, it really was like lungs, and it was like this huge umbrella, and it was suspended by these wires, and the heat in the air would make it rise, and then the cool of the night would make it fall, and it literally kept the pressure in the biodome situated so that it didn't explode again. And so I have one of those, and the waste storage is under there, and the main water, I have 3 water filtration rooms because, well, if you've ever actually seen a water filtration place facility type thing, they normally have multiple rooms because you got to get out all of the tiny and the big and the biggest and all of that out. And then it gets reused and recycled because, obviously it has to be because it's all, condensed into this dome. Well, however your dome looks. It doesn't really have to be circular. I made mine circular with buildings as well because you needed a place for the people to live, and you need, sufficient... It's huge. Mine is huge. And, like I said, I had so much fun. And it's so cool because you learn a lot about, what different plants provide and how different animals kind of work, and it also helps you get a better understanding about ecosystems and how that all kind of takes a role in nature, and it's really cool. It was definitely one of my more favorite projects. It wasn't the only one I did in that class, but for me, not liking science, it was definitely the most fun I've had. And I wanted to talk about it because I still have the blueprints that I made, obviously, because I'm showing it to you guys. But I had so much fun. And yeah, I just thought I'd share. Well, that's the end of this episode of Kitsune Saki's podcast. Thank you all for tuning in and have an amazing evening. Goodbye!